Hello, welcome to a tour of the Chinese Buddhist Canon. My name is Alex Amies. I'm going to give you a digital tour of the Taishō Tripiṭaka with the NTI Reader and some other digital resources. You can view all the material here at ntireader.org/taishō/taishō.html. This is what I'm going to cover. I'm going to give a very brief history of the canon, the roots of the Taishō Tripiṭaka, and compare it to some other Chinese Buddhist canons. Then I'll give a background on the digital versions that are freely available on the web. Then talk about the language of the canon. I'll explain how to search the Taishō, how to find text, how to find phrases in text, how to find where words appear in the canonical texts, how to use the reader, the NTI Reader and the C-Beta online reader, and how to search in SAT and C-Beta. Then we'll talk about the structure of the Taishō, structure of individual texts, and the divisions of the Taishō, and I'll mention the numbering system. Finally, we'll talk about translations into English and other bibliographic information about the canonical texts. The Taishō Revised Tripiṭaka, or 大藏醒修大藏经, is a modern printed Japanese version of the Chinese Buddhist canon. In addition, it contains many Japanese Buddhist texts. The first 55 volumes, roughly 55 because volume 55 is mixed, are Chinese texts. The remainder are Japanese texts. Also, there are some Siddham documents and some artwork. It was compiled. One of the leading figures in compiling the Taishō was Nanzhou Bunyu, who compiled it in the late 19th century. The Taishō is based on the Korean canon, which was compiled much earlier. The Taishō is a modern canon that introduced modern numbering system and roughly chronological ordering. This was a big revolution in the classification system of the text in the canon. It replaced the previous system, which used the numbering system based on the 1,000-character classic. And the previous system also had a different ordering. Whereas the Taishō, the first texts in the Taishō are from the Agamas, or the discourses of the Buddha and his disciples, which are believed to be historical discourses, or at least based on them. The previous versions of the canon had the Prajnaparamita at the start of the canon. Now, if you want to see more about the canon and modern canons, you can see Long Da Rei's and Jin Hua's book on Chinese Buddhist canon in the age of printing, just published last year. And also the original one, 1883 publication of the Catalogue of the Chinese Translation of the Buddhist Tripiṭaka, and from Nanzhou Bunyu. How does the Taishō compare with other Chinese Buddhist canons? Well, I mentioned already it was based on the Korean version, and I mentioned a couple of differences there. Now, the Korean version was compiled in the Song dynasty in the 13th century. The oldest Chinese canon is the Kaibao, and it dated back to the Tang dynasty. Now, after versions of the Chinese Buddhist canon were taken to Korea and then on to Japan, the Chinese canon kept evolving. It added, we'll see the structure later, but it added many texts, commentaries, new theories, and history, and sayings of eminent monks. Is just a couple of examples of versions, important ones. The Yongle Northern Tripiṭaka, Yongle Beizang, and the Qianlong Canon, the Longzang. The Longzang was published in the Qing in the reign of Qianlong, one of the great emperors of the Qing dynasty. And some of the Japanese had this problem of these texts keeping on appearing, and what they did was compile the manji, which collected these in later writings. And we have to be very thankful to Japanese for collecting those, because they're very nicely collected, organized, and available for us to use today. And if you want to read more on this, you can see Louis Lancaster's work, The Korean Buddhist Canon, a descriptive catalogue, which is available free online, also in printed version, at that address. All these links you'll be able to find on the NTI Reader, and also the bibliographic references. Or you can see Professor Wu and Jia's version, a book on spreading the Buddha's word in East Asia, the formation and transformation of the Chinese Buddhist canon, which is a fantastic reference on the Buddhist canon. Now, digital versions. Most of you will be using digital versions because the printed versions are so large. The Taishō is one of the relatively smaller versions, and it's already very, very big. The Longzang is absolutely huge, and you need an entire library room to house it. And so we are thankful to the Chinese Buddhist Electronic Text Association, CBETA, in collaboration with the University of Tokyo. They digitized the Taishō and the Manji. They completed that in 2007. And volumes 1 to 55 are available freely, both for free download and for free reuse under Creative Commons license, and which is the reason why the NTI Reader is able to incorporate them. Now, the Japanese volumes are available for download only, and the essay you can view them, read them on the SAT website. And I've got the link below. The scanned manuscripts are also available on the SAT website. Now, the original version did not have punctuation. It was added after digitization by CBETA. It makes it a lot easier to read as well. So here are the sites here. We'll have a look at them in a second here. CBETA.org, of course. SAT's got a longer address, but you can find the link on the NTI Reader website. And Aming Tool wrote an appendix to the Professor Jiang's book, which describes the digitization, the background to the digitization here that we're talking about. It's also available in Chinese on the CBETA site. And Whithern wrote an article. He's got a few articles actually, but this one is useful, and he was one of the key figures in the digitization. Let's have a look at some of these sites here now. Now here is the NTI Reader site. So to navigate to the Canon on the NTI Reader, start at home, click on text from the left-hand menu, and then you've got it. Well, let's have a look at, here is Louis Lancaster's book on the Korean Buddhist canon. It's very, very useful because not only does it have the titles in English of the Korean Buddhist canon, but it's got the mapping between the Korean and the Taishō. It also has the mapping to the Pali titles where they're applicable, Sanskrit titles, Tibetan titles, Korean titles, and also some other very useful information. So that has been my map for putting together the NTI Reader's packaging of the Taishō Tripiṭaka. Now CBETA, here's the CBETA site, and of course when they first did this digitization, you could get it by CD, and that's what everybody did back in the day. They would get it by CD and just download it and put it on the laptop and start reading it. And this is not very convenient, so now you can actually access it online here, and we'll have a look at how to do that. Here is the SAT website, and you can see that it's got a little more English than the CBETA site, so that may help you. And it's got some Japanese too, if you're a Japanese speaker. And here you can navigate around this pretty well in Chinese. I'm going to talk about the structure of the Taishō in a minute, but if you want to just browse the Taishō in this website, you need to know a little bit about the structure. And we can see on the left-hand side here, the structure is the Ahan Bu, which is the Agama section, Benyuan Bu, which is the Jataka stories, Bore Bu, which is the section on Prajnaparamita. So we can just click on here to browse it. And we see the Ahan Bu has the Agamas. the Chang Ahan Jing, which is the long discourses of the Buddha, is the first one, and then it goes on. We'll go into the structure a bit later, but let's have a look here just to have a look. And then we have the text right there, and we can click on stuff. We can see long. This is the title, and it's actually the preface to the long discourses of the Buddha, Chang Han Jing, and there is the preface, and the translator Seng Zhao, his description. And what we can see here, if we click on this, is the footnote. And there's footnotes in the Taishō actually. But we can also see images here. We click on this. Let's look at the title image here. We can click on this and we see the image down the left-hand side. So this is the first page of the Taishō. You can see that note there. There's a 1. There's actually a note in the printed version. So we can see that. And so if there's any question about this, and sometimes it can be important when there's comments, like commentaries. So the main text will be larger, and the commentaries will be kind of on the side in smaller characters, and that will be shown here in some cases. And there, so that is the SAT website. Let's keep going. How to search for texts. Let's see how to search. There's a number of ways to search, and you can search for titles on the NTI Reader search site. You can search for title even in English. You can search do a full text search. You can search on particular words and see where they appear. And you can also do similar things, not exactly the same things, on CBeta and SAT. Let's look. Let's try. Let's go to the. By the way, here is the description of what I'm talking about here, and all the links are down the bottom, and the references are down the bottom in the references section. So you can have a look at those. Okay, so when you first go to the NTI Reader website, you'll see the search bar, and you can just basic searches there, and full text searches this link down here. So let's do a search. Let's search for the Diamond Sutra. Just type in Diamond Sutra. And there we go. There's the Diamond Sutra. There's a lot of words actually have Diamond Sutra in it. And there is why. There is the Jinggang Jing. That is kind of the short name for the Diamond Sutra. This is the full name, the Jinggang Bore Bole Bolo Ni Jing, which is the full title of the text. There's also many commentaries on the Diamond Sutras. They're all listed there. There's lots of them. Let's click on the abbreviated title. And here is the Diamond Sutra as a word, Jinggang Jing as a word. It's got the Hanyu Pinyin, it's got simplified Chinese, and it has a Sanskrit equivalent, it has a Japanese equivalent, it has Tibetan, a bit of information on it, and some references here. We see the references, the Bosman Lopez Princeton Buddhist Dictionary, Dictionary of Buddhism, TB. Now, here's the Taishō number, T235. There's actually several versions of the Diamond Sutra in the Taishō. The popular one is the translation by Kumara Jiva, T235. So click on that, T235, and here we'll go to the text of the Diamond Sutra. This is the way that NTI Reader is organized is because many of the texts have multiple scrolls. In this case, the Diamond Sutra just has the one scroll, but some of these texts have many scrolls. So, and there's the colophon. This is the colophon here, which is kind of extracted out, which has got the full title here, and the Ho Qin, which is the later Qin dynasty, Kumarajiva, translated this in one scroll. I call it scroll, you may call it fascicle or something else, volume even. And there is some English, there's many English translations, I've only listed 2, includes many. And there's kind of a modern like reference on where I got it from, which is from CBeta, and we can go and see the same text in CBeta. Let's do it. There's the CBeta version and the one scroll, and we can look at it there. and there it is. But let's look at it in the NTI Reader. We'll go to here, the Chinese text, just follow that link. And there we have it. So this is the Diamond Sutra, and you can click on any word here to find more details about it. You can mouse over as well. So here we can see, here we mouse over that, and we can see Shavasti. Shou Guo is the word for Shavasti. Some more. There we go. Biqiu Da Zhong, which is the assembly of monastics. 500. And there we go. Here we go. Shizun, the honored one, or Bhagavat. So we can click on that and see. Also, there is, you can break it down. If you actually click on that, you'll just pop up and you see the great city of Sravasti. Shui Dachang. So that is how to search on a title. Now the next thing we can search on a term. Here's a term I've got prepared ready. I expect to find this. It's a text of multiple words, and I expect to find this in the Blue Cliff record. So let's go back to the NTI Reader. If you start at the top of the website, the home page, click on full text search here. You can search on the Taishō. So let's try it. But there it is. That is where I expect to find it. It's highlighted in red here. Scroll 1 of the Blue Cliff record. So let's go in there, and then here we have it, the term right here. And that is it. So click on it, just mouse over to see the words here. Now, we can do a similar thing on the CBeta website. Let's go to the home page. Actually, we can just start from here. We're on the Diamond Sutra. Let's see if we can navigate to the source file. There it is. We can see that it's actually, it's right, the text is right here, which 2003 is the Blue Cliff record. And then we can see it there. So just do Control F, and there we have it. We've got the same thing right there. Just you need to read Chinese to navigate it. That's the CBeta site. So SAT site, you can do the same thing again. So let's try an SAT, and search. There we go. So we search for it, and we can see 2003. It's in the Blue Cliff record here, Biyan Lu, which has got a longer title. Biyan Lu is the short title. The full title, Fogo Yan Wu Chan Shi Biyan Lu. Which you'll also find in SAT. Now, I want to emphasize these searches are not all the same. They're nearly the same. You notice from the Taishō results that they have some versions here that actually are Japanese texts, and I believe, but they will show you in general Japanese occurrences in Japanese parts of the Taishō that are not available on CBeta or NTI Reader. So that's quite useful. And also they have these things, the DDB on the right hand side, which is a useful resource, or they have to log in. Please don't copy from it. And they also have a thing I think is fantastically useful, which is the equivalence. So we can click on something here, click on a word, and we don't have it. But we have it actually. There is a parallel English corpus, and when we look at translations later, I'll mention that. But there is a parallel English for some texts. So you can highlight on the word, and sometimes you'll get a hit on a parallel English translation. It's worth trying, but it doesn't work every time. So that is one feature that you need to to SAT. It's very useful. Also, now the text search themselves, you've got this kind of and or. You can search or, but I believe the search is not ranked. It will just give you a lot of results. And CBeta here, let me go back to the results here. They're kind of ranked, and even if you don't get a exact match, then you'll get some like this one here. So it's not an exact match, but it may be helpful. NTI Reader, let me go back and do the search again. And you'll see that it will give you results that are not exact matches, as well as it'll rank them. So we give the exact one at the top. This is an exact match. This other one is a partial match, and so it ranks it lower, but it's maybe useful. If you've got something, maybe there is no exact match, then it will show that, whereas it may be hard to find that on SAT. Now, let's try finding a word that has a lot of occurrences, like bodhisattva. And you can try it in the NTI Reader. Let's go to the top here and just type in bodhisattva. And it's got the word. It's got words that use that inside of their own word. And a little bit lower down is the word occurs in these locations here. For example, Large Sutra on Perfection of Wisdom, it occurs 319 times. And Ratna Mega Sutra, 288 times. So that is quite useful for terms that occur a lot of times. And you can also see like what terms include that term. And you can do something a little bit similar in SAT. It's pretty good. There we go. It's got this summary at the top, which is pretty nice. You've got this like compact summary. And you can see kind of the details here and scroll down the pages, which is pretty good. And it will tell you also how many times it occurs, and you can then show the page. Oh, there's the parallel corpus, which I think we'll find it. We'll be able to see it here. Here we go. Parallel texts will certainly get a hit for bodhisattva. So there we go. We've got the hits on the parallel corpus, which is quite useful. And if we dismiss that, we'll see also here we've got one occurrence, one match, one match, one match. So it's kind of helpful. Now, let's have a look at the C Beta Online, which is new. So you've got this menu down to the side here, which has the similar structure to the SAT. We have the agamas here, the Ahan Bu, and then we have the Benyuan Bu, the Jatakas, so we can click on that and see it. Then the long discourses of the Buddha, T1, 22 scrolls, there we've got it. And we can read it, which is pretty nice. Shijia, which is then you can like, it works different to the NTI Reader. It won't do the word boundaries, but you can like look up quotes, look up the definitions in dictionaries, and so pretty good actually, and do full text search even. So that's pretty nice. And the other thing which I was going to show actually is just the search. So we search on Pusa, and it'll bring up another window and bring this up. It's got like, because there's so many occurrences of Pusa here, we've got here, like in the Chan section of the Taishō, here it's got 10,000 occurrences. And then the esoteric section here, we've got 30,000 occurrences. And then the history section, we've got 8,000. So you can see that. And you can see it's nice. You've got like some snippets here, which is a pretty nice feature. Let's go back. So I've done the searching on there. Okay. Let's talk about the language of the canon. The Chinese canon was written in a period, very long period, stretching from the latter Han Dynasty to the Qing. So we've got like 1800 years or so there. So it's very, the language changed during that period, but it's a little bit too late to be considered classical, which classical would be like Warring States period. Latter Han may still be considered classical. And it's too early to be considered modern, which is modern is around the 1920s. Before that, so I call that literary Chinese, for want of a better term. You may call it old Chinese. In China, they use the term Guowen, which is a little bit ambiguous too. Old Chinese may be a reasonable translation for that. It's certainly old, and literary Chinese may be a little bit inaccurate just because it's not like a lot of, some of it are very nicely very nicely written literature, but it's more for teaching purpose than for literary eloquence in most cases. Now, in any case, the NTI will help you recognize those words, and they'll give you English equivalents, and even Sanskrit and Pali and Tibetan in some cases. It will group the characters together so you can figure out which words, which characters belong in the same word. And we did the same thing on the seed beta online. Now, if you want to learn more about the language of the Chinese Buddhist canon, you want to learn to read canonical Chinese, something I recommend is John Kaznick's, Professor Kaznick's primer on Chinese Buddhist writings from the, John is a professor here at Stanford University, and he wrote this fantastic primer, which I got the link there, primerbuddhism.org, or you can see his website, which got the PDF versions at the Stanford website. Structure of the text. So the structure of the text, the canonical text, if you're used to looking at text from individual publications of sutras, they're going to be a little bit different. And why? And what are the differences? Let me just discuss that. The canonical versions, typically they start with a preface, a historical preface, by somebody who's maybe related to sponsoring the publication, some imperial official typically. And they often wrote a preface about why they thought this text was worthy of imperial publication. Most of the canons were published by their imperial sponsored publications and permitted. People usually couldn't just publish their own versions. So there was collaboration with imperial sponsors. And the other thing about the later individual publications, they may include chapter titles that are not included in the canonical versions. For example, the Diamond Sutra, in the canonical versions, there's no chapter titles, it's just a one scroll, but there's 32 chapter titles that were added on later, which are people feel are kind of helpful, and you'll find those in the individual publications, and they can kind of be helpful, but they're actually not in the canon. So let's look at some examples here. So the Foguangshan Translation Center, International Translation Center, has a website here, Foguangshan International Translation Center.org, fgsitc.org, and they have publications which you can just download for free. There's English versions and there's English-Chinese versions, and they're beautifully laid out versions. Let's have a look at them. They're beautifully laid out and done here, unworded, and worded for ease of reading, and they're very nice. You can see here, and they show you not only and actually may add a bit of stuff here that's not in the canon, but it's useful and it's commonly practiced. I don't think it detracts at all. It's nice. This is great. It has the English on the right, the Chinese and Pinyin on the left, and their sutra opening verses. But it might be a little bit different to what you see in the canon, although the main text will be exactly the same. So if you want to see more on those individual publications, which are nice, they have translations of popular sutras. See that website, which is also, the link is on the NTI Reader. Okay, now let's look at the structure of the canon. I already showed that to just browse through the canon, you need to understand the structure a little bit. I think it is quite useful to understand that. So volumes 1 and 2 of the canon are the agamas. These are the historical discourses of the Buddha. Now, also another thing about the Chinese canon is that they kept multiple versions, multiple translations of many texts, not all texts, but you'll find multiple translations of some Indian texts. And just because they maybe improved the translations over time, or people retranslated or had maybe different versions have arrived, different Indian versions arrived. So for a number of reasons, there's multiple translations of some text. I think for the Diamond Sutra, there's about 7 translations. The second section here is the Jataka and Avadana. The Jatakas are stories of the life of the Buddha, and the Avadanas are stories of lives of other figures. For example, King Ashoka and so on. Volumes 5 to 8 are the Prajnaparamita. This is the earliest Mahayana sutras. The later Mahayana sutras are given in the following volumes. We've got the Lotus and Huayan in volumes 9 to 10, the Ratnakuta and Nirvana in 11 and 12, and the Great Compilation 13, some more in volume 14. So you'll find a lot of the popular sutra, Medicine Buddhist Sutra, the one of Purity, etc. in those volumes. Esoteric texts are in volumes 18 to 21. And the Vinaya in 22 to 24. Some of those actually may be earlier than some of these ones ordered. So there's kind of a logical plus a chronological order in here. It's not strictly chronological. And there's some things you might find even mixed up. There might be some esoteric text in the Prajnaparamita section and so on. The Shastras and the Abhidharma. Now the Abhidharmas are commentaries and kind of organization and of the principles from the discourses of the Buddha. The Shastras are more commentaries on that. So we have the Shastras and Abhidharmas in 25 to 29. Then we have the schools, Madhyamaka and Yogacara schools, 30 to 31. And then we have sutra commentaries. These are typically commentaries on the Mahayana sutras. Then we have more commentaries. We have commentaries on the Vinaya and the Shastras. So we have commentaries and commentaries there. Then we have the different schools. And this is where we can find the Pure Land school text, the Chan text, and so on. Then we have histories and biographies. Histories, the schools, and biographies of eminent monks, and that section. And then we have some reference works here, and we have the Waijiao Bu, for example, some non-Buddhist teachings from India that are useful for historic purposes. And we have the catalogue, and this is how we know what was in the Kaibao, because we have a catalogue. We have catalogues in volume 55. English translations. There is an increasingly large number of English translations. The canon is so huge that it seems like it's impossible that it would ever be fully translated, but these days there's just more and more translations becoming available. It's fantastic. And Bingenheimer I think has the best list here of all the English titles of the works, plus the list of translations for the Taishō. It's extensive. It's been working on it for many years, actually. It's just been getting better and better. Also, the BDK, they are compiling an English Tripiṭaka and making it freely available. And it's a great resource. So you can visit it here, and you can see Bingenheimer's bibliography there. I'll have the links on the NTI Reader website. All right, so there we are. We're at the end, and thank you very much.